Good morning and welcome to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I'm NASA Shaniqua Vereen. Thank you for joining us as we begin our coverage of SpaceX's 33rd commercial resupply mission for NASA to the International Space Station. We are currently seeing live views of Dragon from an external camera on the International Space Station as it continues to fine-tune its track to the rendezvous and docking this morning.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. Dragon range is approximately 1,000 meters. Monitor long-range approach per steps 1 to 4 in 1.102 Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Houston Station on 2, copy all, and we're with you in 1.102, and Dragon is in sight. Tally ho. It looks great.
We copy, tally ho.
And attitude assessment is nominal.
We copy, nominal.
And you just heard words from NASA astronaut Mike Fink aboard the International Space Station, giving a tally ho. They are saying they see and view Dragon. We're about 1,000 meters out from the International Space Station. Again, we are now awaiting docking of the cargo spacecraft to the orbiting laboratory, currently targeted for approximately 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. The SpaceX Dragon spacecraft will dock autonomously to the forward port of the station's Harmony module, delivering approximately 5,000 pounds of cargo. It will spend about 4 months attached to the station before returning to Earth in December. The NASA Flight Control team here in Mission Control, Houston, and the SpaceX team in Hawthorne, California, entered into integrated operations about an hour ago and also polled go for the approach initiation burn. That burn occurred around 4:31 a.m. Central Time, 5:31 a.m. Eastern Time. That burn lasted for about 90 seconds and brought the spacecraft up and under the space station. Here in the flight control room in Houston, the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers are on console for the rendezvous and docking of CRS-33 this morning. Teams are being led by Flight Director Chloe Mehring, and to her right is Spacecraft Communicator, or Capcom, Costa Mafridis, talking directly to the crew on board the station. We are currently in what's called a LOS, or a loss of signal, just handing over to different tracking satellites. We'll get views of Dragon and its approach here shortly. In the meantime, we will return to a recap. The SpaceX Dragon cargo spacecraft launched atop a Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida on Sunday, August 24th at 1:45 a.m. Central Time, 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time. This is SpaceX's 33rd commercial resupply mission for NASA to the International Space Station. SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft will deliver around 2.5 tons of new science investigations, food, supplies, and equipment to the International Space Station crew. About 11 minutes after launch, the Dragon itself separated from the second or upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket into its preliminary orbit. The nose cone on the Dragon cargo craft was open to expose the docking mechanism that will come into play a bit later on this morning as it arrives at the Harmony module for its docking to the station. Again, following the launch yesterday, docking is scheduled for approximately 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time today, Monday, August 25th. And again, we are running about 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Now in orbital nighttime, we do have views of Dragon as it approaches the International Space Station. Again, just under 1,000 meters, about 840 meters away from the International Space Station at this time. Dragon and the International Space Station.
Station 1, Space Ground 2 for gear store.
Go ahead, give me out for Gigastore.
Yes, I just put it back old one to the USB port, and still have good indication. So I think just completed this task. And may I confirm that I'm going for the T2 exercise?
Okay, thanks, Kimia, for the work. That's great that we got that dongle back up as expected. And yes, you are go for T2 exercise.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Just heard words from the Capcom to the crew aboard the station. Kimia Yui of JAXA is completing some operations this morning ahead of the docking of Dragon. Again, Dragon is still chasing down and fine-tuning its path to dock to the International Space Station this morning. Currently, Dragon and the International Space Station are flying about 260 statute miles above the South Pacific Ocean in an orbital nighttime. We do have views, but we have a little bit of hard time seeing it right now on screen. We will have those lights. You'll see a red and green light bleep. That is going to be your Dragon approaching the International Space Station. Now just about 710 meters away from the International Space Station. During the mission, Dragon will also perform a during its flight this morning. Dragon has been fine-tuning its way to get its docking aligned with the station. We are on our way to what's known as the waypoint 0 point, just about 10 minutes from now. And we are a few seconds out from a go, no-go poll here in Mission Control Houston, where the flight control team will assess whether the Dragon is in alignment and correct positioning for all things go for docking or proceeding to the waypoint 0 mark. A few minutes prior to us beginning our broadcast, we did have an AI mid-course burn around 4:57 a.m. Central Time, about a 90-second burn. Again, fine-tuning the path for Dragon as it continues its way to the station this morning. The International Space Station flying around 17,500 miles per hour, orbits the Earth every 16 times every 90 minutes. You are currently in an orbital nighttime, so you see Dragon right in the middle of your screen, those blinking lights. You see a red light and a green light that is blinking. We are currently, again, about 265 statute miles, and we are right on over the Tasman Sea, off the coast of New Zealand. Again, Dragon is in an orbital nighttime. We'll have more views as it enters daylight. But again, we are about 8 minutes out from that waypoint 0 point and 560 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, we're about 7 minutes out from waypoint 0. Waypoint 0 is about 400 meters below station. It will be at waypoint 0, which is the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle won't pause at waypoint 0. It will continue on if all systems check out on its path to the docking port. Waypoint 0 is inside the approach ellipsoid, but outside the keep-out sphere. The two safety zones around the station that requires a set of go-no-go poles with the different control teams. The first zone, called the approach ellipsoid, an imaginary shape measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, essentially a large three-dimensional oval. Before Dragon is given permission to move inside the ellipsoid, referred to by teams as the AE, it is configured to be on what is known as a 24-hour safe trajectory. This means that if Dragon lost all control to its thrusters, it would be at least 24 hours before its orbital path would take it inside the approach ellipsoid. By this point, the team will do another no-go poll for Dragon to move inside the keep-out sphere, another zone that consists of an imaginary sphere around station with a radius of 200 meters. It's another chance to confirm all the guidance, navigation, and control systems are working correctly on Dragon before moving it closer to the station, and carries a requirement similar to the AE that the Dragon's orbital trajectory would not bring it inside that sphere if control was lost, but this time only for 4 orbits, so about 6 hours instead of 24. Currently in an orbital nighttime, you do see Dragon, but not as we saw it earlier. You have a red and a green dot and a flashing in the middle. That is your Dragon spacecraft as it approaches the International Space Station, currently about 445 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a range rate of about 4.4 meters per second. Again, we are approaching that waypoint 0 mark about 4 minutes and 30 seconds from now. As discussed earlier, Dragon is bringing about 2.5 tons of supplies, equipment, food to the International Space Station. Among that equipment is what we call a boost kit. During the mission attached to the station, Dragon will perform a reboost demonstration of station to maintain its current altitude. The hardware located in the trunk of Dragon contains an independent propellant system separate from the spacecraft to fuel 2 Draco engines using existing hardware and propellant system design. The boost kit will help sustain the orbiting lab's altitude starting in September, with a series of burns planned periodically throughout the fall of 2025. During NASA's SpaceX 31st Commercial Resupply Services mission on November 8, 2024, the Dragon spacecraft performed its first demonstration of these capabilities. The Dragon spacecraft is again scheduled to remain at the station until December, when it will depart the orbiting laboratory and return to Earth with research and cargo, splashing down off the coast of California. If you're just joining us, this is live mission coverage of SpaceX's 33rd resupply mission to the International Space Station for NASA. We are just 1 minute and 30 seconds out from the waypoint 0 approach. Dragon has done some fine-tuning and some course correcting along the way this morning to its final destination. We are looking at docking of the spacecraft to the International Space Station around 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Currently in orbital nighttime, but you do see Dragon in the middle of your screen, hopefully to have better views as it comes closer to the International Space Station. That blinking light you see, that red and green dot right above and below it, is your Dragon approaching the International Space Station. And Dragon is currently passing waypoint 0. Again, waypoint 0, which was just passed, is going to be that point of about 400 meters below the station. Again, this is the first checkpoint during its approach. Again, continuing through waypoint 0 and on to waypoint 1, about 25 minutes out from waypoint 1. But before that, 15 minutes away, a go, no go for waypoint 1 approach.
Houston Station on 2 for docking. We see that Dragon has transitioned to docking axis. Attitude is as expected. We're reading 358 meters.
We copy all, and we see the same.
And those were words from NASA astronaut Mike Fink aboard the International Space Station. He was saying that they saw Dragon about 58 meters away from the station and knew that Dragon was aligning itself with the docking port. Next up for Dragon this morning is going to be the waypoint 1 approach go, no go poll here in the room for Houston, Mission Control Houston. Again, we're about 12 minutes out from that go, no go poll. It will give the go ahead to move past waypoint 0 and onto waypoint 1, which is a spot approximately 220 meters directly in front of the space station. If you're just joining us, we are providing live coverage of NASA's SpaceX 33rd commercial resupply mission's rendezvous and docking to the International Space Station. You currently have a blinking white light and a red and green dot. That is your Dragon as it approaches the International Space Station this morning. Currently about 323 meters away from the International Space Station, closing at a range of about 0.1 meters per second. After fine-tuning with some course correction burns earlier today, we are now at a place where we are heading for waypoint 1. Again, we have a go, no-go poll before that happens, occurring in about 11 minutes from now. Dragon, as well as the International Space Station, is currently flying about 260 statute miles above the South Pacific Ocean. And yes, we are in an orbital nighttime, meaning currently where Dragon and the International Space Station is flying is during its nighttime. Again, these passes and orbits around the Earth take 90 minutes, giving us 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets a day. Right now, again, Dragon and the International Space Station is flying above the South Pacific Ocean. It's currently about to fly over the U.S. minor outlying islands. Dragon is currently about 306 meters away from the International Space Station. It has passed the waypoint 0 mark and heading towards the waypoint 1 mark, or waypoint 1 approach. Before we hit that approach, in about 9 minutes, we will have a go, no-go poll here in Mission Control Houston. Again, that poll is to guarantee that Dragon is on the proper course and alignment with the International Space Station. Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1 will swing it up and out in front of the station, pausing at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be what we call the docking. It will be what we call the docking access, which means it is directly in front of the docking port. Today, the CRS-33 cargo Dragon is heading to the forward port of the Harmony module of the space station. About 8 minutes out now from that go, no-go poll. Once we hit the waypoint 1 approach, about 17 minutes from now, we will have a go, no-go in the room to approach waypoint 1. If we pass waypoint 1, we will then head over to waypoint 2. Waypoint 2 is about 20 meters away from the International Space Station. At this point, Dragon will focus on aligning its docking system with the docking adapter. It will then fly in, or coast really, into and make contact with the docking adapter, giving us what we call a soft capture. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it is time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. That's just an overview of what is expected. We are currently still about 6.5 minutes out from a go-no-go pole for waypoint 1.
Station on 2. Dragon's about halfway through the fly around, looking great. Attitude is as expected.
We copy that, Mike. Good news.
Again, that's astronaut Mike Fink confirming that everything is going as planned so far this morning. We do still expect docking at 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. Dragon is about 300 meters away from the International Space Station at this time, and about 15 minutes away from waypoint 1. And you're currently getting new views. These views are from Dragon of the International Space Station. As you see the blinking light from Dragon, or as Dragon approaches, you see the shadow, if you will, or the outline of the station come into view. Again, Dragon and the International Space Station are flying about 260 miles.
We have video, and it is updating on Dragon docking monitor.
Okay, we copy. You guys have good cruise video.
Affirmative.
And you just heard station crew confirming they have video from Dragon. Again, that video is going to be as it approaches. You'll start seeing, or we will show a view of the docking axis as Dragon approaches, and we see the soft capture. Dragon and the International Space Station flying about 260 statute miles above the South Pacific Ocean. Again, we're now about 3 minutes out from that go-no-go pole for waypoint 1. Waypoint 1 is a spot approximately 220 meters directly in front of the space station. This places Dragon on the docking axis, directly in front of the docking port. Dragon will continue to creep along the docking corridor as it approaches the port. The docking axis arrival essentially means it is directly in front of the docking port. The spacecraft is headed to the forward port on Node 2, or the Harmony module. And this is where both of the international docking adapters are located. These docking adapters were installed for new commercial spacecraft flights and any other future spacecraft that also use the international docking standard. If everything looks good, Dragon will move through waypoint 1 and cross the keep out sphere on its way to waypoint 2.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. MCCH is go for Dragon to approach to waypoint 2.
Houston Station, copy. We have a go.
And that was Capcom to the station crew. The go no go poll went well, and we are go for approach for waypoint 2. So again, Dragon will not stop at waypoint 1. It will go on to waypoint 2 this morning. Again, still 11 minutes out from waypoint 1, but we were just given the go no go for waypoint 2. So again, we just had a go no go from the Houston team here in Mission Control for approach to go past, for Dragon to go past waypoint 1 and on to waypoint 2 this morning. Again, we're about 10 minutes out from waypoint 1. Waypoint 2, as mentioned, is the final stop, just 20 meters in front of station. Typically, Dragon will pause here for approximately 1 minute to ensure alignment before resuming approach and closing in for contact and capture. Waypoint 2 is inside the keep out sphere. The spacecraft will continue to focus on aligning its docking system with a docking adapter. Once that has been assessed and given a go, Dragon will then fly in and make contact with the docking adapter, giving us what we call soft capture. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it's time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. With all systems checking out and proper alignment, Dragon will then be given the go to proceed to soft capture. Again, we do still expect capture at this time around 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. If you're just joining us, we are providing live coverage of NASA's SpaceX 33rd commercial resupply missions, rendezvous, and docking to the International Space Station. Dragon is currently 290 meters away from the International Space Station, and we are waiting to see Dragon pass through that waypoint 1 in about 8 minutes from now. Again, waypoint 1 is approximately 220 meters directly in front of the space station. Just given the go-ahead, Dragon will pass through the waypoint 1 spot and approach waypoint 2. You currently are seeing one of the Dragon docking monitors. Again, this is how we will see Dragon align itself with the docking adapter on the International Space Station and fine-tune its path to soft capture this morning. So if you imagine this as crosshairs on a target, the vertical line is what's called the R bar. That's the radial vector, an imaginary line drawn between the International Space Station and the Earth. The horizontal line is called the velocity vector, or the V bar. That's the direction of travel in which the station makes its orbit around the Earth. At the crosshairs of that target is the International Space Station. Again, Dragon will be moving to a point directly in front of the docking adapter. Again, fine-tuning itself and approaching until we hit soft capture. We are currently in the terminal phase of the approach, about 280 meters away from the International Space Station, about 6 minutes out from waypoint 1. Again, waypoint 1, it's about 220 meters away from the International Space Station, and it's inside the keep-out sphere. You're currently seeing views inside the Mission Control Houston White Flight Control Room, where we are here for the next week controlling the International Space Station. The Orbit 1 team you see right in front of you on your screen is being led by Flight Director Chloe Mehring. To her right is going to be Capcom. Capcom is your capsule communicator, those talking from the ground to the crew aboard the station. That's going to be Costa Mafridis. You've heard him talking to Mike Fink this morning as he's given some milestones for Dragon this morning. Next milestone up for Dragon this morning is the approach to waypoint 1. We're about 3 minutes and 40 seconds out from waypoint 1. Again, we have been given the go from the room here, along with Hawthorne, California, to continue through waypoint 1 on to waypoint 2 this morning. Again, waypoint 1 is a spot approximately 220 meters directly in front of the space station. This placed Dragon on the docking axis, directly in front of the docking port. Dragon will continue to creep along the docking corridor as it approaches the port. The docking axis. Arrival essentially means it is directly in front of the docking port. Again, the spacecraft is headed to the forward port of the Harmony module. So far, everything looking good, and we've been given the go to go past or through the waypoint 1 and cross the keep out sphere on its way to waypoint 2. looking to cross waypoint 1 in about 2 minutes from now. Dragon, about 257 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of about 0.1 meters per second. Again, you're getting views of Dragon docking monitors. As you see, it's trying to line up that crosshair in the center to that docking adapter. And we're just 1 minute out from waypoint 1. Dragon currently 248 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of 0.1 meters per second. And Dragon is currently passing waypoint 1. Dragon now just 214 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of 0.2 meters per second. Again, we're about 10 minutes out from waypoint 2 arrival. We will see Dragon pause here for about a minute before heading in for docking, expected about 15 minutes from now. Before docking,
Houston Station on 2. We have a range of about 205 meters and decreasing. Attitude is looking great, and we are in approach to a line point.
We copy that, Mike.
And to be super clear, we are in step 3 of 1.102.
We follow you in step 3. We'll expect a report of procedure review complete and when you guys are ready for docking.
And Houston Station, procedure review is complete. Station is ready for docking.
Copy. Station is ready for docking. With that, we are approximately 9 minutes away from arriving at waypoint 2. Once we arrive at waypoint 2, Dragon's going to do a planned hold for no less than 5 minutes for us to assess our reflectors on the forward side of station.
Costa, we copy.
and that was Capcom, Costa Mafridis, and NASA astronaut aboard the International Space Station, Mike Fink, confirming station is ready for Dragon to dock to the station. Dragon is 168 meters away from the International Space Station at this time. Again, just approaching that waypoint 2 mark. We're looking for Dragon to arrive at the waypoint 2 in about 8 minutes from now. And just under 6 minutes, we will have a final go here in the room for docking, making sure that everything on Dragon is aligning and that there is no problems with the vehicle before it approaches the International Space Station for a soft capture. Currently seeing a great HD view from an external camera mounted on the outside of this station. Dragon International Space Station is flying about 263 statute miles above parts of Canada at this time. Dragon is currently 142 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of 0.3 meters per second. Again, Dragon and the International Space Station flying about 263 statute miles above Quebec, Canada. And again, we have a visual of Dragon as it is approaching the International Space Station, about 128 meters out from the International Space Station at this time. We are about 4 minutes out from a go, no go poll for that final docking call from the Mission Control team here in Houston. We again are looking for Dragon to arrive at waypoint 2 in about 5 minutes. Once at waypoint 2, Dragon is only 20 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, this will be the time where Dragon focuses on aligning its docking system with the docking adapter. Dragon will then fly in and make contact with the docking adapter, giving us what we call soft capture. The soft capturing will then retract until sensors indicate that it's time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to the station. Again, everything continuing to look good. We're pressing towards that waypoint 2. And we're looking to arrive around 4 minutes from now. You can currently see some of those thrusters firing as Dragon is fine-tuning its path to the International Space Station, preparing to dock and have a soft capture. Again, we're looking to dock around 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. Currently in an orbital daytime, you can now see a view from Dragon approaching the International Space Station. Currently about 76 meters away from the station, closing in at a rate of about 0.3 meters per second. Again, we are anticipating waypoint 2 arrival in less than 7.5 minutes. And looking for that final no-go poll here in the room in about 30 seconds, giving us the go-ahead for docking. Again, we are looking for Dragon to head to waypoint 2 arrival in about 1 minute and 45 seconds. We expect Dragon to pause there for around a minute and then move in for soft capture. We expect docking to be in about 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Giving us a capture and a contact and capture time of around 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. Now only 40 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at a rate of 0.3 meters per second. And just under a minute from waypoint 2 arrival. And we are 20 meters out from station, and we have arrived at waypoint 2. Dragon is currently in a hold position at waypoint 2. Again, holding at waypoint 2.
Houston Station report on step 4. Dragon mode is hold. Range is 20 meters. R dot is very close to 0. And attitude is beautiful.
Beautiful is what we like to hear, Mike. We copy and see the same. We are holding here at waypoint 2 to assess our retroreflector.
Station copies.
NASA astronaut Mike Fink reporting a beautiful alignment of Dragon at its waypoint 2 hold. Again, that is our final stop, just 20 meters in front of station. The team here in Mission Control Houston is assessing the alignment and making sure everything is just right for Dragon 2 for its final approach to the International Space Station, where we would have a soft capture of the Dragon to the International Space Station. We are currently 1 minute and 30 seconds into the hold. Again, we're making sure that Dragon is properly aligned with the docking axis in front of the docking port to make soft capture. If you're just joining us, this is live mission coverage of SpaceX's 33rd commercial resupply service mission to the International Space Station. You are currently seeing live views from cameras external to the International Space Station of the Dragon as it approaches for capture this morning, and capture and docking this morning. Again, if you're just joining us, we are now about 2.5 minutes into a hold at the waypoint 2 mark, or 20 meters out from the station. At this point, teams here on the ground and on the station are verifying that the alignment of Dragon is correct to dock to the station. Teams here in Mission Control Houston are going over the alignment of Dragon, and we are waiting on the go from the team here in Mission Control Houston for the completion of Dragon 2 approach and dock to the station. Currently working with the team in Hawthorne, California for the SpaceX Dragon MCCH, or Mission Control Houston, and the team are assessing the alignment for Dragon 2 dock to the station. They are currently in a hold, and actually they have just been given the go to move forward with docking. In just about 3 minutes from now, you'll hear the word CHOP, which is meaning crew hands off period, meaning for the crew not to send any more commands to the station. And Dragon has resumed its approach to the International Space Station, closing in at a much slower pace.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking. Monitor for steps 5 and 6 in 1.102. Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Houston Station, we copy. Vehicle mode is in approach to docking port. We're 17 meters closing at 0.8. Well within corridor, alignment great.
And that was NASA astronaut aboard the International Space Station, Mike Fink, monitoring the approach for docking of Dragon to the International Space Station. We are currently closing in at a rate of 0.08 meters per second, and we are about 14.5 meters out from station. And just about 2 minutes out from what we call CHOP, or the crew hands-off period. You hear the ground tell this to the crew, telling them not to send any more commands at that point. And we're just 10 meters away from Dragon docking to the station. And there you have it. You have a view from the Dragon docking monitor. Again, that crosshair right in the center is aligning up with the docking adapter on the station. Again, approaching just 7 meters away from the International Space Station. Coming in a lot slower than earlier at a 0.08 meters per second. The uncrewed cargo Dragon has been making slow and incremental movements towards getting closer to the International Space Station. Now we're seeing it from one of the external cameras as the station.
Houston Station, crew hands off, point, stop.
Copy, hands off.
And we just had CHOP, and we're under 2 meters away from the International Space Station.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. Dragon contact and soft capture complete.
Station copies.
And we have contact at 6:05 a.m. Central Time, 7:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Dragon and the International Space Station were flying above the Ivory Coast of Africa upon contact and capture of the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. The capture ring on Dragon will now interact with the inertial docking adapter on the Node 2 forward port of station to get the initial capture. Dragon's 12 hooks, 2 sets of 6.
Dragon, ring retraction in progress.
Station copies. Good news.
And you just heard the teams here, Capcom, tell the crew that the soft capture ring is retracting. It will retract until sensors indicates it's time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. And we did have that soft capture at 6:05 a.m. Central Time, as Dragon and the International Space Station were flying above the Ivory Coast of Africa. We will continue to provide coverage until we get past a hard mate with the International Space Station. After that soft capture ring is fully retracted, pulling the Dragon in for that nice tight seal, there's 12 hooks that will actually hard mate and hard dock the vehicle to the International Space Station. Again, that is 12 hooks, 2 sets of 2 that will drive and make a hard mate to the station. And we're currently standing by for a good soft capture ring retraction and a good hard dock. Until then, we will continue to provide coverage.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. Ring retraction is complete. Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
Houston Station, we copy.
And we just heard ring retraction complete. We now will be listening out for those drive of those 12 hooks. Those 12 hooks and 2 sets of 6 will drive and hard mate the Dragon to the International Space Station.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon. MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving.
And station copies. Good news.
And we are go. Chloe Mayering, Flight Director, gave the go just now in Mission Control Houston to proceed with hook driving. Again, that is 12 hooks driving to hardmate the Dragon to the International Space Station. And we have the first set of hooks driving. If you're just joining us, this is live mission coverage of SpaceX's 33rd commercial resupply service mission to the International Space Station for NASA. You currently have a view of the cargo vehicle just recently docked to the station at 6:05 a.m. Central Time, 7:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Dragon had a soft capture. As the International Space Station Dragon, we're flying above the Ivory Coast of Africa. We are currently driving the first set of 6 hooks, looking for 12 for a hard mate to the International Space Station. And we just have confirmation that the first set of hooks have closed and we are driving the second set. Again, we have confirmation of the first set of 6 hooks are closed and the other set of 6 hooks are driving currently. We're looking for all 12 hooks to be latched and closed for a hard mate from the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. And we have all 12 hooks closed.
Station Houston, stand by.
And we got confirmation that the last 6 hooks have driven and are closed. The soft capture ring is still stowing, and we're waiting for confirmation of a successful hard mate to the International Space Station.
Station Houston, Dragon is now hard mated. From everyone at NASA, congratulations to the SpaceX team on a successful launch and docking of the 33rd Commercial Resupply Services mission. These missions allow the ISS to do what it does best, serve as a research laboratory where our astronauts can conduct one-of-a-kind scientific research that benefits everyone on Earth. To the Expedition 73 crew, it is now time to do what you all do best, get this cargo offloaded and ready to start doing science. We look forward to the incredible discoveries and advancements that will come from your hard work.
Thank you, Houston. On behalf of the Expedition 73 crew, we'd like to say thanks to everybody who made the cargo and loaded the cargo and launched the cargo. And you're right, it's our job now to take care of it from here. We'll do our very best for all the science that is now aboard. And also, we totally very much appreciate the resupply. And good job to the team. And let's go get it.
Thanks, Mike, for those kind words. Give us a few minutes to reconfigure ISS, and we'll get you started in your next activity.
Copies. Lots of clapping on board.
And we just heard confirmation of hard capture complete, and then some happy words from the Capcom, Costa Marfridas, again telling the crew that we had a successful capture and docking of the Dragon to the International Space Station. Again, now that we have a hard mate of the Dragon to the space station with its vacuum-tight seal, it will then go on to be pressurized to match the same pressurization, pausing periodically for leak checks at the forward port of the Harmony module. Once it is pressurized, the crew will be able to open the hatch on the station side and the Dragon side, and then begin operations to unload the cargo, which will currently be timelined for about 2 hours from docking. A couple of umbilicals will also be deployed to get power and data from station to Dragon. This will move Dragon into what's known as its acquiescent mode, essentially becoming an integrated piece of station once docked. Contact and capture docking took place at 6:05 a.m. as the space station was flying over the Ivory Coast of Africa. It's been quite a journey since launch at 1:45 a.m. Central Time, 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time, early yesterday morning. CRS-33 completed its trip to the International Space Station, making contact at 6:05 a.m. Central Time. At the time of docking, the space station and the Dragon spacecraft were flying over the Ivory Coast of Africa. And now, with the Dragon now safely aboard the International Space Station, that concludes today's rendezvous and docking coverage. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Mission Control Houston.